Hi lovelies, welcome back. So for this video I'm going to be showing you knitting, sort of try and explain to you how to knit, but also just sort of watching me knit, just, I don't know, if you're new to it, it kind of help I suppose, but just generally just to sort of help calm and relax you. I have got my previous knitting project and the one I'm currently working on, so I'll show you what I've recently finished, which is, so this was made using Rowan Felted Tweed and Debbie Bliss Angel, having a strand of each together to knit with. So, because Felted Tweed on its own is quite scratchy, and then the Debbie Bliss, the Angel, sort of just adds that softness and the thickness as well. So even though it's sort of essentially, because felted tweed is sort of a bit thinner than a double knit, collectively it's sort of the thickness of an Aran weight. So, well, I suppose probably between a double knit and an Aran. So it's a nice thick jumper, but not like excessively so. Lovely and warm. Ever so slight scratch to it, but I get really funny about having scratchy stuff against my skin. So this is perfect because I can wear it against sort of my bare arms and it doesn't irritate me. Did have to get my mum to help me with the band around the edge because I am yet to learn how to pick up stitches, so maybe I'll be finding a tutorial on YouTube as to how to pick up stitches. But yeah, I did have sewn the buttons on, and I did add a little touch of using different colour threads to stitch the buttons on. I do need to stitch one more button, it's only because I left it at home. I left the fifth one at home. I don't know, it must have fallen out my bag or something, but Mum has since given me said button. I just have not sewn this one yet. It took me a very long time, as you can imagine, because it's sort of not a tight fitted cardigan. It's got that sort of slight, not bagginess, but the excess around the body. I have got a step here. I'm going to try and show you a bit more. So it's got like that bit of extra. It just makes it snuggly and cosy, and I absolutely love the colours that I've used. The pattern was for 3 different colours, but it wasn't. I think it was like a duck egg blue with the brown, and then it might have been this pink. I'm not convinced. I feel like I changed 2 of the 3 colours. But oh my gosh, I'm so chuffed with it. What I'm currently working on is a king cole pattern. I'm using a cheaper wool this time. That was very expensive to knit, and yeah, because of using like 2 different wools at the same time, obviously then you're doubling up just how much wool you need. And it was Rowan, so that's expensive stuff, but so nice. Oh my god, like I said, I want to knit it again because it's so lovely. But this project I wanted something a bit sort of quite simple, fairly quick knit, not too quick, but like a something with a bit of colour change, something that wasn't going to be the end of the world. I think because I want to try and do like things like picking up stitches, and I want to push myself, so I don't want it to be like a really expensive project if it doesn't look that great at the end. Sort of a practice one, if you like. I've used wool. It's nice wool, but it's like a cheaper wool, so because of the size of the garment, it's kind of, you need more wool for it, but this is more a cost-effective way of doing it. It's 25% wool, 75% polyacrylic, I believe. So it's got the wool content in it to keep you warm and take away that sort of acrylic feel, because I don't like acrylic. Some of the acrylics you can get now are just amazing though. I'll attach the link to the website so that you can have a look, because they're amazing. They're so, you would not believe that they're 100% acrylic. It's amazing. And they're more affordable because it's acrylic, so it's a really good deal. So this pattern, this is a king cole pattern. As you can see, it's got 2 patterns included with it, which is one of the really good things about king cole. I think pretty much all of their patterns come with 2. This one I really liked because of the fact that it's got the chunky stripes, but also the thinner stripes on the sleeves. Just really liked that contrast. I do like the colours there, but I couldn't get the, what do you call it, like a pebble colour, I suppose. I considered doing sort of black and white or black and cream. I think it's black and cream I wanted. But I was worried about it being too harsh, block coloured, because of the size of the chunks. I think if they were all sort of maybe, I don't know, as I say, if they were all narrow stripes, it might not have been so harsh, but in the end, I decided to go with this colour. I stuck with the cream, but I've gone for this sort of orangey, foxy colour. It looks really, really bold and bright in the camera, but it's not quite so piercing in real life, I don't think. So that's the shoulder, and then it goes into the sleeve there. And then this is actually the back that I'm holding up right now. Let's pull my step back over. So it is difficult to judge because obviously there's only one side of it, but yeah, it's like I said, it's actually the back, but it feels nice and soft, and it does knit quite quickly, which is appreciated when it's lots of one colour. But yeah, so that's that side. So I'm currently working on the front. Which, as you can see, I've only finished the rib and I'm working on sort of just going up. I think I have to do 22 stitches, 22 rows, sorry. 5, 10, 15, I've done 16. So I've got another 6 to go. And this is literally just simple garter stitch, so it's just knit a row, purl a row, knit a row, purl a row, which is nice and basic, nice and straightforward. Just sit in the evening watching the television. If you haven't got the best lighting, that's okay, because as long as you can see enough of what you're doing, that's all right. Okay, let's just look at the pattern quickly. So this can be a bit confusing sometimes because of the way they're sort of laid out. There is an abbreviation section at the top, like a key, if you like. So when there are abbreviated words, you can look up at the top and it will tell you what they mean. For example, because I had one moment where I was like, oh, I don't know what that means. Which bit was it? I can't remember where it was now. I don't know, there was one in particular that I hadn't heard of before. A lot of them you can figure out. So like it says, with 3.75mm needles and M cast on 119 stitches. So M is your main colour. Where did it say? Yeah, so M is your main colour, and then C, for example, is your contrast colour. Or contrast yarn, sorry. I have no idea the correct terminology. But yeah, I did make a mistake with this, with working on the front. Oh my goodness me, it was a complete, I say nightmare, it's just a rookie error. So where it is, here we go. So once you finish so for the pattern I'm working on, it starts here, whereas the other pattern starts right up at the beginning. So you have to find your pattern, so sweater with broad stripes. So you follow that pattern, which goes right around to here, and then it says front. So this says work exactly as given for back of sweater with broad stripes to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 7th asterisk, because there's a lot to go. So it says, yeah. And so you just copy that pattern until you get to that point. So you then have to find back of sweater with broad stripes. Now, the error I made with this was that instead of going to the beginning of my pattern, I worked from the back of the other pattern, which is the same size needles, same colour, however it's only 105 stitches, and 11, was it how many rows? Oh, like 9 rows of rib, and I thought that doesn't seem right because it's not as big as the other side. So then I thought, oh, okay, that's when I realised it's 11 rows. That's fine, just do 2 more rows. Then realised that for the back of the jumper I'm working on, it's 119 stitches that you cast on with. Like, oh my god. So I'd done about 10 rows of 1x1 rib and had to undo the entire lot and recast on 119 stitches, because I hadn't, this is the other thing I could have added on, like the other few stitches, but I had not got enough wool to cast on a few more stitches. It's just like, I had to start the entire thing again. It was painful, I have to say, but it had to be done. So, where am I? So, oh yeah, so I'm working on this point. So the 7th asterisk point takes you up to shaping the armholes. So that's when you stop, apparently. Yeah, so you get to the 79 stitches. Because then you have to work 7 rows straight in stocking stitch. And then you continue with what the pattern says for the front. So it's a lot of jumping backwards and forwards between different sections. Sorry if it came out a bit jumbled there, but it's not the easiest one to explain, especially as you can't really see it 'cause the light's reflecting too much. But yeah, so if I say let's work on the sleeves, I'll cast on stitches for the sleeves and do a bit of ribbing for you so that you can see. So I've used a 3.75mm needle and our main colour, and it says we have to cast on 43 stitches. And then it's beginning with first row, work 12 rows in rib as given for the back of sweater with fine stripes, i.e. 1x1 rib, knit 1 per 1. And then change to 4mm needles, work in stripes of 12 rows with contrasting colour and 12 rows main colour as follows. Begin with a knit row, work in stocking stitch, increasing 1 stitch at each end of the 7th and every following 12th row to 57 stitches. Work 5 rows straight in stocking stitch, ending with contrast colour yarn. Break off contrast colour, join in main colour, and with main colour complete as follows. Oh my god. Okay. Very wordy. This is where you have to break it down and literally work on, like, I don't tend to read ahead particularly. It was mainly for your benefit, but yeah, I tend to work on each bit at a time and then try and decipher what what it's telling me, because it's not actually sorry, some more words. It's not actually that difficult when you think about it. So for example, beginning with a knit row, working stocking stitch, increasing 1 stitch at each end of the 7th and every following 12th row. So we're going to be casting on with our main colour, which is the orangey one, and we're going to be casting on 43 stitches. Now for me, I always work for the smallest size. I don't know how well you'll be able to see that. So I don't know if you can see. Hang on. So each time it's telling you how many stitches you need. It has one size and then in brackets, all different sizes with a colon in between. So for me, I think I've always used the smallest size, but so it's all here, so it tells you the measurements and things like that. So if you're not the first one, not the second one, so say you're the third one along on this part, you will be the third one along in the bracket. So where I'm casting on 43 stitches, you'll be casting on 49, like just to put it in perspective. But yeah, so it's all like straightforward stuff, but if you're not used to reading knitting patterns, it can be a bit sort of more complex and make you really think. The good thing about King Cole is their patterns are generally understandable. Rowan, oh god, that's part of the reason my mum had to do the band for me, with the buttonholes and everything. It's because of the fact that it just did not make sense to me at all. Mum did say to me at one point, like, come on, read the pattern, figure it out for yourself, kind of thing, and I really wanted to. And then I showed her the pattern when I was with her one time, and she was just like, she had to read it a few times, and then she worked out basically what they'd done is they'd put the initial what you needed to do, but then you had to work out the rest of it, which is just, like she said, it is laziness on their part. The money you spend on one of their pattern books, and then for them to not actually put all the necessary information, you've got to sit there and calculate how many rows and da-di-da. It's not really fair, is it? Right. I'm just going to grab... Oh, okay. Right, so you want to just find, I mean, usually you pull the wool out from the centre to start with, and then it's supposed to keep the ball, like, get less tangled, and you haven't got a ball of wool sort of running around everywhere as you're unravelling. Because if you pull it out from the centre, it supposedly it just comes out from the middle, which actually that has conveniently worked. Doesn't normally work for me like that. I usually end up getting into a bit of a pickle, but I've been lucky today. I tend to get out sort of, I mean, that should be plenty. If there's excess at the end, you can use that to sew up your sleeve, for example. So I get it, piece of thread, thumb, finger, through and through. I'll do that again so that you can see. Sorry, the needle's banging. So, piece of thread, thumb, finger, like that. One more time. That. And then you can put your needle in there and tighten it. So now, to then cast on, you have, this is your excess bit, okay, and then this bit's coming from the ball. I have probably got way too much here, but we're doing 43 stitches. So, thumb through, needle, round, like that. So, thumb, and you want to pull it, but you don't want to pull it tight. You want it enough so it's not got a baggy bit there. In again. Oops, sorry, that wasn't very clear, was it? And over. It doesn't have to be perfect at the end of the day. Oops. It doesn't have to be perfect, especially if you're new to it. This is how I've always cast on, which I'm pretty sure my mum's told me at some point that it's not how you're supposed to cast on. It's not the proper, like, professional way of casting on or something, I don't know. But she has shown me the other way, I think, actually, thinking about it. But this works for me, and it looks neat and tidy. I think there's a way basically of doing it. If you're doing ribbing, you basically cast on so the rib matches, so it's not just one neat line along the bottom. It sort of matches with the switching of the rib. Right, I'll just slow it down again a bit, sorry, as I've picked up pace a little bit. So, wool around the thumb, through the needle, round, loop that over. Thumb, needle, loop, over. Thumb, needle, loop, over. And again. You don't want to go too fast because that's when your tension starts to get lost and you end up with it being uneven. I think you do naturally sort of pick up a pace, but right, let's see how many we've got. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 30, 31. Okay, so for this bit we're going to be doing 11 rows of 1 by 1 rib. I don't think I'll sit and do the entire lot of ribbing with you because that will be boring. I'll do a couple of rows and then, or a few rows, and then I'll do some of my other bit that I'm working on. I wouldn't normally do more than one part of a jumper at a time, but this is for your benefit. So yeah, afterwards I'll do just some basic stocking stitch. This is a particularly long needle, annoyingly long, especially if you're doing a sleeve that's, I mean obviously it's going to get wider, but it's just, that's what I have. But I love these needles. These are Knit Pro needles, I believe. So they're symphony wood or something. Really, really soft. Almost have like a waxy feel to them, but not like as in residue, just that smooth. And they're just so pretty to look at. They're really lovely. Like, so much nicer than using a cold metal needle. The wool kind of just glides over the needle as opposed to, so it's not as clicky clacky, which I do like that sound, but it's just a more delicate sound. It's very, very nice. Really, really recommend getting them. You've got your loose bit of wool here. That needs to be kept to the side because you are not knitting with that part. You want to be using the wool that's coming from the ball to be knitting with, okay? But the first couple of stitches might get a bit loose because that's where you've cast on. So slipping the needle through the first stitch and round, through and up, and then purl. The wool goes the other side of the needle, through that stitch the other way, round. Switch the wool back, and then knit one. Wool back the other way to purl one. Wool back the other way to knit one. And switch again to purl one. And back again. And there we go. Switch this back to purl one. And back again to knit one. And back again to purl one. Okie doke. So I'm just going to do I'll do a knit row and a purl row on this in the hopes that it'll maybe become a bit clearer for you as to how I'm doing each stitch. I apologise if it's real basic stuff and you already know how to do it, but hopefully you can enjoy it anyway. Okay, so knit row, we've got our wool. I keep it between these two fingers. Everyone's different. Some people just hold it by that one, some people hold all three. I don't know, I just naturally do it with those two. And the needle goes through, so you've got your stitches. It's like a loop on your needle, okay? So you can see if I pull that, it gets tighter. You don't want to pull it too tight, but you want it to be not too loose either. So this goes through that hole there. Not all the way through, it comes through like that, okay? So you're pushing it through. That goes round, loops around the needle. I tend to loop it round and then sort of hold it here so that there's a bit of, it's not tight, but it's not going to So I'll show you what I mean. So if I do that and then let it sort of through go, it's just going to be quite loose in comparison. So I just pull that a little bit. So I think it's about 95 stitches or something on this needle. It's a nice easy stitch to do. I'm doing it at an awkward angle so that you can see it on the camera, which just make it a bit difficult. I don't wear a lot of sort of orangey autumnal colours like this, so it's a bit of something I wouldn't normally go for, but I would embrace the change, you know, encourage a newer colour into my wardrobe. I like a bit of red and black, I wear a lot of that, and some greys. Just trying to think what else I wear. I'll slow it down a bit for you again. I think subconsciously I pick up my pace. Okay. So now, as you can see, we're onto the reverse side, and it's a different design on this one to that. So this is always the back of your garment. Okay. There are some patterns that are like that, but that's a real basic. When you first learn to knit, the whole thing looks like this because you do that backwards and forwards. Okay, so instead of going in like this and going round like we were just doing, this time it is your needle goes underneath like that and it slips in this way. So you can see you've got your loop here. It's like that, okay? In like that, okay? Hopefully that's sort of clear enough for you to be able to see. So we're going to slip it in basically backwards in a way, isn't it? And this time the wool is going to go round the needle this way. So in and over that way. So in and round. So before it was that way, but the whole thing is reversed, okay? So it's like that. So in and round and pull it through like that. And again. You can see how it creates the loop shape. It pulls it under, okay? Slip it through, round, and oops, and out. Like so. It's like learning to ride a bike, I think. Once you've learned how to do it, you never forget. Even when I've gone a couple of years, well, I've gone that long before, I've gone over a year without knitting before, and you get to the point where you're worried that you might have forgotten how to do it, and it comes straight back to you. The only thing you do have to maybe think about more is your tension. A lot of patterns give you, I think every pattern, it will give you a tension square, like dimension. So this basically means that it will say like cast on so many stitches, it should be like 12 centimetres by 15 or something like that. And that's the correct tension for the pattern. So how you should expect your garment to fit or something like that. I never do a tension square. I don't think I've ever actually done a tension square. I've done granny squares, but not for the purpose of a tension square, you know. I just get on with it, really. I think most people probably too. My mum, for a long while, was knitting garments for magazine shoots and as demo pieces, basically, or sample pieces, sorry, for people like Rowan and King Cole and things like that. And she always had to do a tension square. When she first started out, she had to do various tension squares in different types of wool, different thicknesses, things like that, so that they could, I suppose, make sure they were happy with how her knitting was. Which makes sense. So it's quite cool for her to have been accredited in quite a few magazines and things now, in the back for her work. The only thing I do notice on this knitting on this side is that it tends to curl over the needle, so I have to I think it's just the positioning of your hand and stuff, it just naturally causes it to happen, but I'd love to see what other people make. By all means, send me pictures of what you're making or what you've made, because I love it. I love to get inspiration from people as well for different things to create. I'd love to experiment and sort of create a pattern on a jumper that's my own, you know, like not like fair art as such, but do a design on something that's my own. I think if I just did like a basic sweater type jumper, I feel like it wouldn't be difficult, but I don't know what I'd put on it yet. That's the beauty of it. You can do what you want. Okay, so that's getting heavier now. Hopefully that was clear enough for you. It's growing nicely. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my ribbing again, and I'm going to do another couple of rows of that for you. Right, so because we've done one row, we'll start with Purl, and you can just about see that with this particular part there's a loop here and then it goes down, so that suggests that it's purl then knit purl. Okay, but I do remember that I finished on a purl, on a knit. Don't worry. Okay, so again, needle under, through the loop, and over. Swap the wool round, then we're going to knit, switch it back, purl, the other way, and knit, switch it back, and purl, swap it over and knit, so purl, swap it and knit, and purl, and knit, and purl, and knit. Let's put these up a bit. And purl, and knit. One by one rib is very fiddly and not the most fun of stitches to do. It just feels like it takes a very long time to get it done, you know. Knit 2, purl 2, so 2 by 2 rib. That's better. I prefer that. But I do also find that more challenging when you're on the first row, that you really have to concentrate, because it's much easier, I find, for your mind to kind of forget where you're up to. Oops. Such an awkward angle to do this at, sorry. My arms are aching now. So knit, purl, knit, and purl. And back to the other side. And as you can see, it's starting to grow a bit now, and it's a more defined pattern of purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit. Yeah? I'm going to go on and do the next row of this rib. So let's start with a knit. Okay, so it's purl. You're always doing the opposite to what was done on the other side. So if it's purled on one side, then you'll be knitting that stitch on the other side. Once you've done a few rows and you sort of learn to recognise which stitch looks like what, you don't sort of need to mentally read out sort of knit 1, purl 1 and all that. You can look at, so that's a purl, and then you can see that's a knit stitch. So you just learn to recognise what they look like, and mentally you don't sort of need to try and keep track. You can just do the next stitch as such, you know. Oops. testing ground. Okay, just because I like to always finish on a purl row, so that when I pick it up the next time it's on the right side, which is a knit row, I'm going to do one more row, and hopefully it'll stay in focus for you, and it'll help you grasp it. So needle over, sorry, or under, through the loop and round, and switch for a knit, and then a purl, round the right way. Right, push that up. That's a knit. Oops. Purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, oop, purl, knit, purl, knit. I don't know if you know, if I am going too fast, I am going quite fast now, I'm aware of that, sorry. But you can slow down the speed of a video on YouTube. If you bottom right corner of the video, I think it's in the settings thing, you can choose to either speed up or slow down a video. So that might help you if you are learning. Likewise, if the whole thing's too fast for you and you want it to be really basic, let me know, and that's something I can create for you, like a real basics beginner how to knit video, if you wanted. But yeah, just let me know. Because this is, if you want to do basic knitting, then this is probably a little bit up from, if you're brand new to knitting, this is probably a little bit too, I don't know, maybe a bit more advanced for you, so you'd be better off watching something that's completely starting you from the very, very, very beginning. So I'll try my best, but okay. So this is forming our rib for our sleeve. I did have to put my cardigan on because it was cold, sorry. But yeah, so that will be the cuff of our sleeve, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so that's, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4 rows we've done now. My mum says I am quite a tight knitter. I don't really, I try and loosen it up or relax it a little bit when when I think about it when I'm knitting, but it just then feels like it goes the other way and it's too loose. My mum, she just gets the perfect tension. She's got a lot of experience. Can't compare, but on the website there's some knitting kits. So there's like knitting cushion covers. It's got everything you need in it, from the pattern to the needles to even the decorative buttons on the front. There's a beginner's kit as well as just sort of your average, sort of if you're used to knitting. The beginner's one tells you everything as in how to knit, so it's ideal as a gift, perfect as a gift if someone hasn't done knitting before but wants to get into it maybe. And oh, that was it. They've brought out teddy bear ones as well, so you could have got everything in the kit to knit your own little teddy bear. That's so cute. Okay, it's all on the website. I apologise if it's not focusing perfectly. I need to do another cross stitch videos. Quite a few people have asked me to do another one of those, but I just haven't really been in a cross stitch mood lately. I'm really quite into my knitting. But yeah, cross stitch just not quite. I don't know, I'll pull it out at some point because I love it, but I don't really find that I do both knitting and cross stitch in the same, I don't know, at the same time. I tend to go through phases where I do just one or the other really. Right, I'll just do the purl row. So I'll try and turn myself around at some point so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. It's really important to keep track of your rows as well where you're around a pattern. Just suddenly realised I did that other row and I haven't actually marked it down. So after 22 rows I get to change colour, which is always good fun. I always find it interesting to learn where people learn to knit, whether it's that they taught themselves or who taught them. I can remember from a very young age watching my mum knit and wanting to learn how to do it, and she tried to teach me quite a lot, and then I think it was my grandma in the end that I managed to like completely learn from and sort of get the hang of it. Just I think my poor mum, every single time she'd pull out her knitting or her cross stitch, she'd get about 5 minutes of it done and then I'd be like, can I do mine? And then I remember after a while it'd be like, let me do mine for a bit longer and then I'll help you with yours, because it wasn't I'll get it out and you just do your cross stitch. It was every single stitch she'd have to help me with, every time I changed colour, every time the pattern changed, or I'd do some of it and feel really confident, and then I'd thought I'd got it right, and then she'd look at it and be like, no, that's wrong, and then have to undo it all. So I do feel sorry for her that every time she wanted to do hers she was having to help me or my sister with hers, but look back at it and laugh now, but at the time, you know, it was probably quite irritating for her. But you think now she can do as much knitting and cross stitch as she likes. But yeah, so that's 2 rows done. I will show you how to cast on. Now again, I'll say again, sorry, referring to my cross stitch video, everybody has different ways of doing things. I'm not convinced my way of casting on is the proper way of doing it, but it works for me, and I mean, you look at it along the bottom, it looks fine, it's passable, you know. And likewise with this one, like it's not an unsightly edge, but I just have vague memories, if not that long ago, my mum saying to me that's not the proper way of casting on or something, but I don't know. Let me just have a look. I'm just going to, so I just have to cross off my 2 rows. That's 5, 10, 15, 18. Okay, now I've got 4 rows to go and then I'll be able to change colour. Okie doke. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed that. I've done my best, tried to keep it sort of calming and reassuring, but also educational for you. So, I'll just pop those bits down. So, like I said, if you wanted something a bit more basic and really getting you into how to start knitting for someone with no background of knitting whatsoever, please let me know and I will create something that's, yeah, even more simple than that. And I'll probably try and make it even slower again because, yeah, like I said, you can slow videos down or repeat bits. Yeah. Anyway, so I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you again soon, okay?